We got backward seat belts. You know, Matt, I'm not too sure that I'd trust being in the back of this thing anything over like 60 miles an hour.
You know what, dude? The car doesn't trust you being back there anything over 60 miles an hour. What the hell are you talking about?
Are you calling me fat?
No, I'm calling you...
Call me a big back?
No, dude, I just don't have random dudes sitting in the back of my car.
But it's comfy.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm also Matt.
We're here to bring you car reviews, but mainly focusing on modded cars and car comparisons to the everyday person that wants to know what it's really like to buy these cars, own these cars, and mod these cars. Episode 2.
Episode 2, baby. We got that E36 M3.
4.5.
What the f does that even mean? All right, guys, so to start, this is our 97 E36 M3. Now, 97, it's got some age now. I think this is considered a classic. Or at least I would consider a classic at this point. Now, something that I think gonna definitely make you feel some type of way, and probably some of the viewers watching this car is older than I am, Matt. So
Yeah,
anyways,
that's bad.
So on that topic, Matt, if you want to give us an introduction about this car, tell us some of the mods that are done.
1997 BMW M3. This is the OBD2 version of this car. In the United States, there was 2 versions. You had the S50 or the 1995
Right.
S50 engine OBD1. That's the 3-liter. This is the second iteration of that. This is the 3.2-liter S52 OBD2. This was the one that back in my day, before you could unlock ECUs and do ECU flashings, nobody wanted because you could never tune it.
You had to chip them.
You had to chip them.
That race chip,
Not
baby.
anymore.
Race chip.
Got all the basic bolt-ons. Active Auto Works headers, Active Auto Works mid-pipe, Active Auto Works Gen 3 catback, the best sounding catback ever made for this car. On BC coilovers, Apex 17 by 9.5, square setup, track setup, it's what I prefer, like we talked about in the last video.
This guy has a style that he just copy pastes on every single one of his cars. It doesn't matter what it is. This guy one day is gonna buy a 911 and he's gonna throw Apexes
On square setup.
on a square setup on a 911.
So yeah, just some basic things that are done to this car is a typical thing. The Euro corners, GTS.
So what are Euro corners? Because I'm not an E36 guy. I know nothing about these cars.
Yeah, so in the US, these cars came with amber corners. The Euro ones are the clear ones.
I think the clear ones look good.
Yeah, you know, amber ones don't look bad either. It's always been like a toss-up. I think it just depends on the color.
Right.
You know, blacked out kidney grills, the anniversary emblems, which are like, for some reason, controversial, and I don't understand why, because I think they look great.
I think it's like, I think it's similar to like throwing an M badge on a series car.
Yeah, but this is an actual M3, okay? The very heavily sought after M345.
3/4. What are we talking about?
4-door, 5-speed. It was a rare find. They only came out with the 4-door for 2 years. I personally like the 4-door. If you know anything about E36 history, the E36 chassis was actually developed in the 4-door platform, right? The 2-door M3s came out first, 95, 96, 97, 98. After people asked for it, BMW North America gave it to them. And, you know, won a couple races with this car showing it off, like 4-doors can get down. And really it was the beginning of like what became
motorsport.
Every other motorsport car, or every other, well, I should say every other M3 then came in a 4-door except the E46.
I feel between like early 90s and like 2013, I feel that BMW had such a large budget for their motorsport division and for their like experimental division. Like that's when all the cool stuff came out.
There's a whole lot of channels on YouTube that explain the history of this car, but pretty much this car was never supposed to come to us. This car, BMW after E30 didn't want to make an E36 because they didn't think it would sell.
Well, the budget also in that time, you know, BMW wasn't doing too well.
Yeah, here we are at the back of the car. The best part about the E36, in my opinion. 4-door with the 4-door taillights, Euro corners.
You know, it's not that bad in here.
And that's why we get a 4-door, so these guys can do dumb stuff like this.
I really expected a lot worse. I expected a lot worse.
The car is a lot smaller than
like an E90 or whatever.
Like an E90.
And I'm a short king too, so like that's not saying much that I can fit in the
back.
back.
You're not that short. Got the LTW wing.
Isn't that a rep? Aren't the LTW wings like really expensive?
Yeah, they only came on 2 doors. Yeah, no, so these cars, just like E90s, same kind of story. The 4-door is completely different, right? The lights are different, the body lines are different, the spoilers would be different too. So this is like an LTW rep wing.
Gotcha, okay.
So
this isn't a real one off
No,
of
it's not a real one. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Right.
I personally think the best thing about the back of this car is the fancy wide diffuser.
I really like the fancy wide. I think that's one of the only diffusers that look good on these cars?
So when I owned these cars back in the day, there was never diffusers. That wasn't a thing. Fancy Wide came out with this, and long before I owned this car, and I remember thinking, I could never own an E36 without a Fancy Wide diffuser. It was literally the first thing. I think I ordered it before I even bought the car.
Really?
Yeah, it was not the easiest thing to install, but definitely worth it once it's done. It's pretty sturdy. I'm not gonna lie. That thing's seen its fair share of parking stops.
And can we talk about how shiny them damn tips are, man? Like,
Active AutoWorks Gen 3
I know you were
exhaust,
wiping that
buddy.
wheel down earlier, but
Active
man,
AutoWorks Gen 3 exhaust, the best exhaust in the game.
that sucker is hot.
What do you think, Maddie? We're sitting a whole lot closer together than in
Yeah,
another
they were
car.
rubbing elbows over here a little bit.
It's old school.
It is old
like
school.
It's like a old, like, they started making the 3 Series the size of a 5 Series.
Yep.
I mean, the cool thing about these cars is, like, this is the type of car you get to learn how to drive in. It's not going to get you in trouble. Like, right now, I'm in a normal, you know, I can actually...
Dude, I'm going to tell you what. This thing's got some torque for 240 horsepower.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest, I was really impressed the first time I ever drove this car, and Matt told me to ring it out. I rung it out, and I was like, are you kidding me?
I mean, this was a super fast car when I was in high school.
Right, right.
Like, this
by nowadays standards.
Nowadays standards is not fast at all.
Yeah, you
But
get beat by your Toyota Camry.
I remember when Camry started coming out and actually got whooped by one of them. This car is just a raw, like, sports car. It's the best car, in my opinion, that, like, the kids should be starting out with if you want to learn how to drive.
Right, yeah.
This car is not going to get you in too much trouble. You're not going to lose control doing a second gear pull 40 mile an hour.
Right.
The E36 holds up. The car's a vibe to drive. It's super comfortable.
This car is such, it screams what it is, 90s car. And even being a 90s car, like, the technology that came in the 90s is absolutely insane.
If you get the one with the full computer, you know, you have your range, you have your consumption, you have your outside air temperature, you have your average speed, your distance you can clock.
Right.
All those things.
So many different features.
Yeah, it's so many different features. They didn't have backup cameras back then. They didn't have sensors around the car, the parking sensors and things like that. But for what you need, like,
it's all there.
this is all here. And then you just add like a simple CarPlay or something like that. Would I daily drive this car? You know what? If I
Haven't you been daily driving this car?
Pretty much. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. This car is a vibe to drive. Like, I hate to use the word vibe, jeez, but the truth is, man, like, when I owned this car when I was in high school and thereafter in my early 20s, the driving experience now is completely different. Like, the amount of attention I get driving this car is crazy.
Yeah, and I think that comes a lot from it being red.
Yeah,
You know,
that too.
my first thing that I actually like played around with was a 2007 335i, and that was in crimson red. And I'll tell you, I think I got more attention in my crimson red 335 than I do in my Laguna Seca Blue M3.
That's true, but this is also one of those cars, like, it's a if you know, you know car, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
A lot of people from my generation, like, wanted this car. It was like their dream car, but it was like an obtainable dream car, you know, because back when I was a teenager, these cars were selling for $7,000, $8,000. You know,
and now the 328 ISs are selling for $8,000.
Yeah, now it's hard to find an E36 like this for $8,000. This is, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, this is the closest thing I'm ever gonna get to feeling like what it's like to drive a Ferrari around. I had a guy come up to me yesterday, stop me, like, talking to me while we're driving, telling me that he got goosebumps seeing this car because this was his dream car when he was a kid.
Right.
You know, and I know it's gonna be a lot of older people that have that response to it, but, like, what about like your generation?
When I was in high school, it was all about the E9X M3s, but at the time, you know, they were still 40, 50 grand. So I never really heard about the E36 M3 until I really understood what M3s were. Obviously, with the E36 M3, it's the only body that has no different from the M body.
I kind of feel like it's a good thing, because what happens if you're a kid wants to get into drifting or wants to get into road racing or something like that? It's so much easier for you to buy a 328i and just put the necessary things like the diff, maybe some suspension components from the E36 M3. Everything bolts right up.
Right, and
You
it
know
looks
what I mean?
cool too.
Yeah, I mean, the bumpers are super easy to swap. You don't have to go do a whole wide body if you want your car to look cool. Don't put M3 badges on a non-M, because someone like me will be able to tell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no,
You know
you're
what I
definitely
mean?
going to get called out, so don't think you're sneaky with it. Add to that, like, for example, if you want to make a drift car and you buy an E90 328, It's a lot harder to make, you know, an E93 2.8 look cool on the track than it is, you know, E36 M3.
You know, with this car, dude, it's like everything is just so driver oriented. I mean, everything from the way the pedals, like this car is a lot easier to heel toe in, you know, like even just driving normal, I just click my foot to the side and boom, I got it.
They also ride a lot lower than the newer cars.
The frame on these cars on the side sits a lot lower on the side, but the cool thing is the front bumper sits up.
Right.
So like that's one thing I struggle with the F80 and the E90 is like the front bumper sits really low. Like when they drive good, man. I mean, but I've had some bad ones. When you have those subframe bushings are bad and all those like shock mount bushings are bad, and when the bushings are really worn and tired, even your engine mounts, tranny mounts, you definitely can feel it. You know, the only thing, if you notice, I think the biggest difference what BMW really refined is like the in-cabin noise.
Right, yeah.
Like
so
this car is kind of like driving like a Honda Civic from the 90s in a way.
Very rattly, very plasticky.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, your E9X and F8X, those are going to be a lot more, you know, built Ford tough.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I got to tell you that like the sound system in here, if you get the Harman Kardons,
I was extremely impressed.
And trust me,
for
I
a
use
90s car to sound like this. I got in the car and I go, "Did you put a sub in this thing?" And he goes, "Nope, it is stock."
Yeah. If you're looking for an E36 M3, do not, or an E36 in general, please get the Harmans.
Yeah.
It's worth it, and you're gonna need it for all the rattly in this car. You know, this car is like, the interiors fall apart, man. That they're known for that.
Now, what's up with these manual seats, dude? How do I work these things? So that one? Yep.
Yeah.
I'm short.
How do you feel about those manual seats?
I don't know. I don't hate them. But I think I prefer power, but I like the, you know, weight reduction.
Manual seats is a non-negotiable for me because
really,
after owning so many E36s, you have no idea how many issues I've had with the seats. It's like when they're electric. This is actually the only one that I've ever owned that has manual seats. All the other ones were electric, and it was always like, you know, on the E9X, maybe your bolsters will not work or something like that, but on the E36,
everything.
It's like the front to back won't work and stuff like that, and I just didn't even want to deal with that at all. You know, it's like I'm trying to limit the things that can go wrong.
So why is it that this car is so quiet, even though it has, you know, headers and everything?
Dude, I don't know. I mean, I honestly think it's an active mid-pipe, but you know what? I'm not really that mad at it because the quality build of that active mid-pipe is insane, and it's actually really big, but it has a really big resonator on it. Do you think driving this car, and it only being the third time, and you having plenty of E90s, driving a lot of F80s, like, I always say you can feel the heritage.
Yeah, no, you can definitely feel the heritage behind the cars. So like driving this car, and then, you know, I've hopped directly from this car into an E90, and then hopped, you know, from the E90 into F80, and there's certain little things that carry in their own unique way.
One thing I wish I would have had back in the day when I was buying these cars was like the chassis mounted shifters, things like that. That's something that's like relatively new to the market.
Right.
This car has a completely rebuilt, like every bushing, has the DSSR from Turner Motorsports. I mean, this is like the best factory shifter you're gonna get. And it has a short throw shifter in there. The stock shifter was like the longest throw of all time.
Yeah.
Like
and even with a short shifter, I mean, that feels
pretty long
than
still.
usual.
Yeah, it feels like a stock F80 or stock E90. I mean, I guess it's just those were the times, you know, like back in the day. This car also, I mean, beat out Porsches, Ferraris, all types of cars that in its time were double, triple the price. I mean, I think this car is like MSRP was like $36,000 when it came out or something like that.
So that's a lot of money back then.
What do you mean back then, dude?
Back then. And 97, baby. When you could walk into a real estate office making $45,000 a year and you were approved.
Yeah, for real. The only problem with buying a four-door M3 is every car meet you go to, you're gonna have somebody saying, is it a real M3? Where are your Vaders?
Dude, matter of fact, where are your Vaders? Tell me a little bit more about these seats. I mean, what's the difference between these and like normal 3 Series seats? I thought the M3s came with like Darth Vaders or something.
Four-door M3s do not come with Vaders. That's the number one thing I get knocked on. I don't know, I wish they would have, but I guess to save costs, like who knows, but I really wish they would have because I'm sick and tired of trying to explain it to people. You know, another thing about the four-door chassis, which is super weird, is that there's no steering wheel adjustment.
Is there?
Mm-mm.
There isn't?
No.
What?
No steering wheel adjustment.
What is that, dude?
That's why you get so much adjustment with the seats, dude.
I was gonna say, these
gotta,
are like 18-way adjustable seats.
Yeah, 18-way adjustable seats, no steering
that are
wheel
manual.
adjustment. Yeah. With this car, personally, I think with the E36 M3, like coilovers are what you need. Like I run springs and shock with all my other cars. This car, I don't know, man. Like the OEM shocks, I'm not a fan. The springs don't lower the car as much as I'd like. Dude, look, honestly, this car, think of the heritage. I mean, this car beat out iconic sports cars in the 90s.
So Matt, what's the deal on these, man? Why am I looking at M3 list and seeing, you know, E36 M3 for 30 grand?
Dude, that's the thing. First of all, I just want to say shout out M3 list. So
shout out to M3 list.
Shout out M3 list. I think they're doing an amazing job. So I actually found this car on M3 list. I was asking myself the same question. Back when I sold my last E36 in 2011, I sold it for $7,500. Now to find an M3 for $7,500, you're doing a full restoration project on the
Exactly,
car,
yeah. You're buying a northern car with a bunch of rust.
Yeah.
And
you know, I'm probably gonna get scrutinized in the comments for this, but I bought this car for $15,000, right?
which is unheard of for how clean this car is.
Yes, but this car has 265,000 miles on it.
Insane.
To me, that didn't scare me. I plan to swap this car out to an S54, but honestly, dude, there's so much to take into consideration. I mean, it's how well the car was maintained, how many owners did it have, what maintenance has been done. When I decided to pay $15,000 for this car, everyone in the comments was like, oh my God, that car is worth 10 grand. You know what? Find me an E36 for 10 grand that's as clean as this.
Clean.
The thing that people don't ever think about is the amount of maintenance it's gonna take to get a car looking perfect. I wanted a perfect M3. I wanted one that had all the underbody paneling. I wanted one that had minimal bodywork. This car's never been painted, never had any bodywork.
Very original paint, and you can tell it too.
Yeah, this car had a stack of maintenance records that it came with, so I know all of the history.
Right.
I'd rather pay someone what I think in this market is a relative bargain, $15,000, and I know where the cars came from. I'm the third owner of this car. Every bushing in this car has been changed before me. The cooling system has been changed multiple times. The only check engine light that it has is something because of the exhaust system that has to be coated out.
That's because of a modified exhaust.
That's because of a modified exhaust, you know? Like, the car came with tasteful OEM Plus mods. I did a couple things to make it my own, like the lip, the diffuser, the wheels, a couple things like that. But I mean, really, if you want a super clean E36, this is just the market that we're in right now. You're gonna spend $15,000 and up. You know, I seen them for sale for 12, 13 grand, and they are beat. I've seen super clean ones. I've seen some that were not even as clean as this, and I'm trying to get 25, 23 grand for them. Personally, I mean, I think right now, if you want a super nice E36 like this, it's well maintained, you should not care about the miles.
Right.
And you definitely should care about the maintenance, who's owned it before you. And I think you're gonna pay right between $16,000 and $20,000. I mean, that's just where we are in this market today. To own a car with this much nostalgia and like just the pure joy of driving it, I mean, like if it's something that you wanted as a kid and you never got to have, I mean, I think it's money well spent, honestly. I mean, you got to take the cost of inflation into it. Take into consideration what E30 M3s are selling for, man. When it wasn't 15 years ago, you could buy an E30 M3 for $15,000, and now they're $100,000,
right,
you know, or $90,000. Do I see that happening with the E36? Not to that level, because there are far more E36s made than E30 M3s. So they're much more common. But I mean, as people, you know, they went through a phase there where they were drifted out and they were crashed, and now they are getting harder to come by. I don't see them on the road ever. At car meets, seldom see them. Honestly, I would say if you want an E36 M3, now's the time to buy one.
I think there's specific cars within the M lineup that, you know, will have the same price surge as the E30s. The E36 maybe not be one of them. You know, definitely as they become older and harder to get, the value is gonna go up. You know, the E9X M3, because it's the only V8 M3 ever made, I think that's one of those gems that, you know, give it 15, 20 years, maybe a little bit longer, but I think those are gonna be similar to the E30 pricing.
Yeah, you know, I think you buy an M car now, hold on to it. If it's
right,
a E36, E46, and we're going into the E90s, I say hold on to it. Buy a car that's been maintained. Do not chase the maintenance.
Right.
You know, what's it worth to you? You know, a red E36 M3 for me, it took me 2 years to find.
You know, stay ahead on your maintenance. Don't do it when it goes wrong. Do it when you have the extra money to be able to do it. Take care of things ahead of time, even if it isn't on its last leg.
Yeah, and quite frankly, if you're gonna compare an E36 M3 to the E46 E90, you know, this car, you don't have to do rod bearings. This car, you don't have to do a subframe reinforcement. This car is gonna be the basic things. Your Vanos will go bad, your cooling system will go bad, but those things don't really cost that much for this car. You know what I mean? It's not gonna break the bank. A lot of the parts are interchangeable with the non-M, so even if you want to go the non-M route, it's really easy for you to turn your car into this or something similar to this and have fun with it. I mean, this I think is the purest car. This is an enthusiast car.
So, you know, Matt, at the end of the day, these cars are pretty cool. The only thing that I say is not cool is the fact that it's literally a 3 Series with some bumpers on it and some cams. Oh, you are watching Shift Society.
Don't put M3 badges. Shut the up.
Can I ride with you?
No.
Oh.
Good job. Jesus. Turn your phone. Dude, watch my bumper. Boom, boom. We're starting over, Ed. You don't have a wide body, that's for sure.
No wide body on the E36.
Yeah, and that is, you know what? To each his own. We don't need, the E36 didn't need a wide body to be the best handling car in the country for 10 years straight.
Well, maybe we should take this thing to the track and figure that out the hard way.
Yeah, bring out that supercharged E90, we'll see.